Hi, and welcome back to Dog Speak Live. Today we have the wonderful Simone Mueller. I'll say that again, Simone Mueller, all the way from Germany, but she's not here in England. I'm in England, and Simone is still in Germany. But today we're going to talk about predation training, predation substitute training. So first, let me just tell you a little bit about Simone. Simone Mueller is MA, is a certified dog trainer and dog behaviour consultant from Germany and author of the Predation Substitute Training series. He specialises in 4-3 anti-predation training and offers help to dog owners and professionals all over the world. If you've never heard of Simone Mueller, I'm going to ask yourself, you've got to ask yourself, where have you been? You need to get to know this lady. She has a lot to offer you knowledge-wise and teach you about dogs in a different way that most of us are used to. So, welcome to Dog Speak Live. Simone, how are you?
Thank you, Colin. I'm fine. Thank you very much for the invitation. How are you?
I'm fine, and inviting you was a no-brainer, but I should have invited you back a little while ago. Things got a little bit hectic, so here you are now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
wonderful.
I'm looking to learn as much as anyone who's going to be watching this back and learning too. So, Simone, how did you become a dog trainer? Why did you become a dog?
I think this question, I think a lot of dog trainers answer this question just like I do. It's very, very simple. It was because of my first dog. So she was a little bit challenging. It was in 2002 that I got her. And I was a new dog owner. We had a family dog when I was a kid, but then this was my first own dog that I had. And yeah, and she made me learn a lot about dog training in general, first as a dog owner and then later as a professional. So I got interested in all these learning and workshops and seminars. And at some point I thought, okay, now I have done so many workshops and seminars as a dog owner, I can start a dog trainer education in Formula One. So put this all on the next level, and this is how it all started. It was back in 2015 or 16 when I started my dog trainer education, and then from 2018 on, I've been working as a dog trainer now.
Wow. Okay. So was it this very same dog that instigated you to go into the field that you're working in today?
Yes. So it has always been my special interest to talk or to learn about dogs with a high prey drive. And this was, of course, because of Malinka. She had some challenges for me. She was dog reactive, but she was also a big hunter. And yeah, so I focused more on the predation side because where I live, we don't meet a lot of dogs, so we are rather out in the woodland or in the field, and we can walk there for hours without meeting anyone. So this was my priority to learn about for her.
Wow. Okay. So I'm assuming that your experience with your dog at the time, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the name. Was it Malika?
Malinka, yes, it's a
Malika.
Russian name. I think it.
Okay.
I think somebody told me it's called. It means raspberry. So
Raspberry.
yeah, but I didn't come up with this name. She already had that name when I got her. And I wanted to change that name first because I would never have come up with the name of Malinka. I had a whole list of names. And then I saw this little puppy and the family, the daughter of the family, she was about 10 or 12 years old. She said, "This is Malinka." And I saw her and I said, okay, this is Malinka. You cannot change her name because this is what she is and what this is her name. So we took that name and yeah, a raspberry.
I'm intrigued to know what raspberry Malinka. See, what behaviour was she displaying for you to decide this is the way I'm going to go? This is the way I'm going to be teaching in the future, and I want to call it substitute training, predation substitution. How did that all come about? What was the
Well,
behaviour?
fun.
Sorry, what was the behaviour that drove you to this?
Yeah. So Malinka's top behavior was orientation behavior. We will talk about this a little later, I think, where she was looking actively for something to hunt. So we went into the woodland, and the moment we went there, she was starting to look out for prey. And when she thought, oh, there might be something, she just ran off for a couple of meters, and then she realized, oh, maybe not, and she came back. So this was really challenging for me because I could not avoid certain triggers because there were no triggers. It was just her assuming that there might be something. And yeah, so this was really hard for me to deal with. And I was, of course, afraid because in Germany we have a strong hunting lobby, and the hunters are, yeah, they are even allowed to shoot a dog when they catch a dog while they are chasing wildlife. So I was always afraid when I was out and about, and I had her on a long line for a long period of time. And she heard me on this long line. I have a scar on my ankle. I have a scar on my hand here. This all comes from the long line because she was so powerful, and she had so much stamina that when she ran off, she could literally blow me off my feet. I was sometimes flat on the ground in the dirt because the impact of her hitting the end of this long line was, yeah, it was so strong. And this is when I started to realize I have to do something about this.
God, so I'm so intrigued by it all because I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah,
Where would I look for a trainer? How do I
yeah,
find a course? So, how did you learn about it before you started working with Belinka?
yeah. It was really difficult because yeah, it was in 2005 maybe when she had the peak of her prey drive, and it was really hard to search for reliable and yeah, good sources how to deal with this behavior. We had a positive trainer in my area, and he was really yeah, he wanted to teach me, but he himself was not trained in this. And then what he said, we can go to the local rescue and go into the cat house, so where the cats are, and then at this rescue we can train in front of the cat house. But it didn't work. So we entered this room, and there were glass, and behind the glass there were the cats, and my dog was like, they are behind glass. So I was driving for 1 hour to get to this rescue, and the trainer, I think he was a little bit angry with me because he thought I was somehow exaggerating or something, and he was like, she doesn't react. And I was like, yeah, but they are not moving, the cats are behind in a room behind this glass. And at this time, we didn't have trainers in Germany who were really trained to deal with predatory behavior. They didn't know how to do it and what to do with it. And then I tried several things, and some of these tips were great that I got, and some were not so great, but it all didn't fit together as a system. So there was no systematic approach. And the first systematic approach that I came across was a book, the first book that was written about force-free anti-predation training. I think it was around 2007 or something, might be the same time when e-collars were banned in Germany, because this got a real boost then, because nobody knew what to do otherwise. And when I read this book, it was really like an eye-opener for me. And I started to implement the different training approaches and methods and exercises. And then I started to see progress.
Wow. So then from you actually coming across this book, and that book, you couldn't have stumbled across that book at a better time when the
Exactly. Yeah.
e-collars, because of e-collars being banned in Germany,
Yeah.
now you probably didn't know you were going to be as big as you are today, with people
Yeah.
wanting to know you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've got this book, you put the training into practice. Yeah. You realize, yes, I'm making progress here. And
Yeah.
then the rest is history. How does the rest become history?
Yeah, then I went on seminars, workshops on this topic, and because more and more trainers started to specialize in this topic because of the ban, probably. And in Germany, when you do a dog trainer education, a formal course over 2 years, it is a part of this course. So one workshop and one script that we got was specifically on predatory behavior. So it's quite common now for dog trainers in Germany to have this knowledge, what to do with high prey drive dogs. And yeah, so this is what happened for me too. And then yeah, this is how it all came to pass.
Okay, so what is predation substitution? Right.
Yeah, so maybe first we need to talk a little bit about what predation or predatory behavior actually is, and then we can add on what predation substitute training is. Predation is hunting behavior. So in German, it is called hunting behavior. We don't used to call predatory or predation. And it is a chain of behaviors that starts with orientation behavior, the thing that my Malinka did when we were out in woodland, looking around for prey, sniffing the ground for prey, air scenting, listening for sounds. And then when the dog is successful and can locate a trigger, what they do is they go into a stalk. And a stalk means that the dog becomes really arrow-shaped and points at this wild animal. And then the dog or the canine creeps forward to bridge the gap between themselves and the wild animal before they go into the chase. Because chasing is really calorie consuming. So the dog or the canine in general, the wolf, the fox, whatever, tries to get as close to the other animal as possible. And this is typical for wild canines. So for wolves or jackals or whatever, foxes, coyotes, because they have to calculate their calorie consumption. So they do not want to waste a lot of calories. They want to get as close as possible before they go into chasing, which is the most calorie consuming part of predatory behavior. For us dogs, it's not like that. They do not have to make this calculation in their head because they do not rely on prey as their source of food. They have their kibble and whatever we give them. So for them, they often do not show all.
Mhm. They do not show all the whole sequence of behaviors.
Pardon?
They don't show the whole sequence of behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah, they skip certain parts. And this makes no sense for a wild canine. They would go like, are you crazy? But our dogs, they don't care. They do it for the hell of it, for the fun of it. So they chase. And when they lose sight of the animal, they search again, chase again. This is something that a wolf, for example, often does not do. When the wild animal has gotten away, they say, okay, I leave it be because it's too dangerous, it's too exhausting. I cannot make up the calories for this behavior. But our dogs don't care. They just do whatever they feel like is right for them and is fun for them. So they might chase straight away. So this makes it harder for us dog trainers to work with this behavior because we have those dogs orientation, doosh, there we go. And then when the dog or the wolf or whatever we have is lucky and catches the wild animal, they hold on to it for a little longer to make sure that the prey is really dead. And does not suddenly jump up and run again when they release too early. And then they start to dissect and eat the prey. And this is where predation stops. But again, we humans have altered the whole thing in our dogs, mainly because we want them to perform certain tasks for us. So for example, when I have a sheepdog, I need them to orient, where are the sheep? Then I need them to stalk and eye the sheep. This is what we call in border collies eyeing. We need them to creep forward to get as close to the sheep. Then we need them to chase, which is the run out to get them, bring them home, bring them in. But then we do not want them to grab and to kill and to dissect and eat the sheep. And it's the same, yeah, it's the same also for our hunting dogs. The hunting dogs that were bred for hunting, they show a lot of orientation behavior. The moment you take a spaniel or a setter or a hound into the woods, they will go absolutely crazy because they need to go into orientation behavior. This is what we made them to do. We want them to find something for us. And then we want them to do whatever they were bred for. For example, the hound is made for tracking and the setter is made for setting and flushing up the birds and waiting for the hunter to shoot. The retrievers are made for retrieving. So we have highlighted parts of this predatory sequence that we want them to perform immensely, excessively, without limitation, but others we do not want. So a hunting dog that is in the end eating the flesh of or the meat of the wildlife is not wanted, because the human hunter wants to have that meat, and they want to have it in a nice quality and not mauled and destroyed. So yeah, you see that these parts some have been blown up and others have been made smaller by us.
It's very interesting because it was only a few days ago I was saying to another colleague how man has made the dog's world so much smaller.
Yeah.
Dogs were bred many, many, many years ago for certain jobs.
Yeah.
Today, we don't want them to do those jobs. Yeah.
Exactly.
But we still expect good behaviors, good dog, perfect dog. So, you know, you just highlighted that in a way, and I'm just saying this for lots of people listening, is we must choose our dogs sensibly, wisely. Get the dog we need, not the dog we want. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. A little while ago, you mentioned there was a difference between predation and predation substitution.
Yeah. So predation substitution training or substitute training, this is just a translation from a German term, means that we take this behavior that the dog has in them, and we work with it, and we substitute those parts that are not possible or safe for us, for the dog, for wildlife to perform. So instead of trying to suppress the behavior completely, for example, with an e-collar or with a spray collar or whatever tool there is out, or just by intimidating the dog and saying, no, you can't do that, leave it be. It is a conception that this builds up more pressure inside the dog because they have this need. They were bred to perform it. It's in their genes. It is triggered from learning behavior from the environment, and it's learned behavior as well. So if a dog has, for example, for 5 years performed excessive predatory behavior, and I don't mean that necessarily they kill something, only that they can go out by themselves, sniff about for as long as they want to without anybody present or interfering. This has become a very strong reinforcement history for the dog. So they have performed this behavior that is on one hand genetically anchored and therefore super hard to get rid of, and then also learned for a longer period of time. So we cannot just train it out again. It will not work. We can suppress it to a certain extent, but even when we suppress it and the dog has really a strong prey drive, it will pop up again in certain situations. It will never be completely gone. And also what happens is that the dog will feel not happy about it because they have this need. They need to perform it in some way. So what we do is we train certain components. One component, for example, is just regular obedience training, recall, leave it, sit from a distance, stuff like that, so that we are better in controlling the dog and somehow navigating the dog safely. And but another point is that we have to take those behaviors that the dog wants to show and he cannot, and replace it for games. So we basically play hunting games, predation games with these dogs that match the certain parts of the predatory sequence. So, for example, if you have a dog that loves sniffing, you can, of course, play a chase game, but it's not as need-oriented as taking a sniffing game. So you have to know your dog really well. I talk with clients. What does your dog show when they play at home with their toys? And then we try to find out what these dogs' hobbies are. And then we take certain games to match those passions.
So, what game is the most popular?
Oh, wow. I have so many games that I love. And I think popular is something that is quite easy. And you don't need to prepare it or train it or something like this. You can just do it straight away. It's called the sausage tree. Maybe you've heard about it. No, okay, good. So it's quite easy. It's very simple. You take some treats that are softer, maybe sausage or cheese or whatever, and then you put them into the bark of a tree, or you put them on twigs. So you can put them onto twigs, or yeah, sometimes I take some liver pate or liver cream and I smear it on a stone, on a rock, or on a harder surface, and then the dog can forage and scavenge on these trees or rocks or whatever. And this is a very clever way to make use of the very first part of the predatory sequence, which is orientation behavior. A dog has to use their nose. Where is the next treat? Do I go higher up or lower down on the tree, on the bark, or left and right? And it also caters the very last part of predatory behavior, the eating, so dissecting and eating part. So by doing that, we have two parts of predation that are not very arousing for the dog, because arousal goes up in the course of this predatory sequence and then goes down again. And so we have the first and the last part, and the dog can have a need-oriented activity that caters two of those parts without going totally crazy.
Wow. I now recall that I have seen this sausage game in one of your webinars.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Now
I
that
love
you've mentioned it, I can see it.
yeah.
So if someone calls you up, you get a client, they make contact with you, they say they have obviously a dog. I'm just trying to think of a breed. Let's just say it's a border collie. I'm going to go
Okay.
for that one because it's easy.
Yeah.
And it's a chaser. It likes to chase
Yeah.
and capture or nip. What would be the first things that you start with?
Yeah. And a border collie is quite common, and chasing is quite common in border collies. So this would be a very real scenario. The first thing that I do is I try to send these clients to a veterinarian. And I do this because we know now that most of behavior issues that we regard as problems come from pain in dogs. So dogs have just as much pain as we humans do. So we can say that we live in this industrialized world, and we have to altered our lifestyle so much that we inevitably develop some kind of issues, back pain or whatever. And it's the same in dogs. And dogs, there is this veterinarian in Germany. She's also a behaviorist, and she also specializes in predatory behavior. And she says most dogs develop a kind of over acidity in the stomach. This is very common in dogs, but it's not diagnosed very often. So it's almost, she says, it's almost as much common as pain issues, joint pain. But in the wider public now has awareness that pain is something, joint pain is something in dogs. It happens quite frequently, but there is almost no awareness for stomach issues and gut issues in dogs, and they are very common as well. And when dogs are in chronic pain, they do not feel right, just like we do, and they are not their best selves. So when I have a hard day and something is hurting in my body, and then there comes one incident and I completely flip, and this would not be the case probably if I wouldn't have this headache or whatever I have at this moment. So when you have a dog that is really hyper outside, it can have several issues that are pain related or health related. First is that the dog does not have a lot of impulse control left because of this issue that he has that I just explained. But the other thing is in predation, there is this special effect. Predatory behavior is something that we call intrinsically reinforcing. It's self-rewarding. It feels good. And there are happy hormones and released during predation. Mainly we have dopamine. Dopamine is something that is related with excitement. So when you go on a new trip or you have tickets for a great concert or whatever, and you really you look forward to this. So this is your dopamine rising in your body. And for the dogs, it's the same. So we have dopamine when they are in hunting mode, and then when they have made a catch, we have endorphins that are happy hormones, like indulging in something beautiful. And those two together with adrenaline and other agents that are released in the body, create a state of euphoria, sorry. And this lowers pain perception. So maybe you know this from yourself when you have done a bungee jump or whatever, and you're really pumped full with adrenaline and dopamine, your pain perception is lowered. And the same happens for our dogs. So we know from dogs that they deliberately try to give themselves this dopamine, adrenaline, endorphin kick in order to lower their pain. So it's like a kind of pain medication for them that they give to themselves. And these are the two reasons why I sent them to the vet first.
I can very much assure you, Simone, that I have never, and nor will I ever, do a bungee jump. No.
And then neither do I. Never ever in my life.
They go to the vet, they have a full physical checkup.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there'll be a full blood count done. Yeah.
Yeah.
The vet analyzes it all and everything is okay. Yeah. Now the client comes back to you and says, Simone, the vet check has come back really, really good. Here is the results. There's nothing wrong with my dog.
Yeah.
Can you now fix him?
Yes.
Where do you start?
So then we can start working, right? So additionally, I also sent them to a physiotherapist because I think that physiotherapists are better at detecting underlying pain than vets can in their practice. But still, I do not require this written on a sheet. When we meet for the first time, I tell them, please do this, please do that. And some people do it, but others don't. I can't do anything about it. I'm not the dog owner, so I have to go with what I get. And we always start training on the first day when we meet. And the first thing that I do with them is I teach the dog focus and engagement outside. Because a lot of dogs, when they are out and about, they do not even realize that their human is still behind there. Maybe holding them back, and the dog is like, oh, what is she doing again? She's so slow. But there is no real connection. And this is the first thing that I try to change. So we teach the dog to stay in contact with their owner voluntarily at its best, so that the dog realizes, oh, there is somebody behind there, and it makes sense to stay in contact with him, her, whatever. And yeah, so this is basically the first step that we teach.
I'm assuming when you say stay in touch, you're talking about what we would normally call a check-in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just checking in. Okay. Do you know, I wouldn't have even thought that's where we would be starting. Yeah. I just see the wild animal running in the distance, and we say to the dog, "Go chase," and then we start training that way. But that's just silly me.
Yeah.
So basically, we're looking at good social life skills to begin with.
Yeah.
Teaching the dog how to self-regulate to a certain point
Yes.
and be more manageable, yeah,
Yeah.
and more interactive with the handler, so that they're ready now for the training that you specialize in, yeah.
Exactly.
But so once you've got to that point, at what point does the I don't know if I'm using the right words because it's not my niche, it's your niche. When does the hunting bit come into it, the
Mhm.
predation? At what point?
Yeah, this also depends on the dog. If we have dogs with a lot of orientation behavior, they are in hunting mode straight away when they enter the field, enter the woods. So we even start at this moment. We teach them, for example, not to run into the bushes and sniff and stumble across wildlife because it's inevitable. We teach them to stay on a path and indicate, oh, okay, there is something, there might be something in this bush. What do we do? And then the handler has time to react and redirect, or play a game, or even let the dog sniff for a couple of meters and then turn around. But we need to get we need to buy us time to react, because when the dog sees something, smells something, and is gone, what can we do? So this is what we would start with dogs that are in orientation behavior when they are out and about. And I think here of spaniels, of pointers, setters. And then we have the border collie that you mentioned in the beginning. They are not so much oriented in orientation behavior. They are rather focused on their human 99% of the time until the deer comes, and then not so much anymore. And here, one of my colleagues actually calls this pseudo predation. She says it's not real predatory behavior. We have the hunting dogs that show, or the original breeds, or the huskies, they show all the types of predatory behavior, and we have to manage them all of the time. But then we have those border collies or those Australian shepherds that are chasey, and that's it. They want to chase, that's it. And all the rest of the time, they're fine. They can be off leash. We don't need to have them on a long line all the time, but we need them to be approachable when it happens, when there shows something up. And here again, we teach the dog to wait a second before chasing, to do other things instead. So I call it tools, predation substitute tools. It's not a physical tool or something that I put on my dog. It's more a kind of alternative behavior that I teach the dog. Okay, when you now see a deer, this is what we do. Instead of chasing, we stand and watch it. And then I teach the human what to do, because it's also a problem that the guardian, when they see a deer, they go into complete panic and they call their dog, yes, and they scream and shout and they try to get their dog back. But in this moment, the dog maybe has not even seen the deer, but realizes, oh, she's indicating there is something. And then they start to look and they see it and they're gone. So we need to teach the dog and the human to do something instead. Yeah.
It's interesting, because we often always say to clients, it's when we get to change our behavior, there's a very good chance we can change the dog's behavior. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in your line of work, it's imperatively important that the handler does change their behavior.
Yeah.
Otherwise, too many indicators are going to trigger the dog, and the dog's going to go into mode. You
Yeah.
also said something really interesting, because I'm fascinated to know how this would work. You said we train the dogs to indicate.
Mhm.
How does that come about, and what would that look like?
Yeah, you can say it's a classical indication. So indication just means that the dog tells their handler with a certain behavior that there is something that they were trained to indicate. And we know this from detection dog training, for example, that the dog freezes with their nose at a certain point. So what we here do is we take indication behavior that comes natural to a lot of dogs. For example, pointing dogs, they indicate with their paw up. Yeah. And we grow this behavior. So basically every dog can show this type of behavior, standing and pointing at something. But a lot of dogs have either lost it or never used it. So we try to teach them again that they can do this, and then we try to grow it and make it longer so that we humans have time to react.
Okay, so it has small amounts of similarities to scent detection work when we have taught a dog to find a specific scent.
Yeah.
They go along and they indicate, and it's about the duration of stillness,
Yeah,
calmness,
exactly.
yeah, self-regulation.
Yeah.
And I get it now. So I wouldn't have thought that would be a part of what you do.
Yeah, it's a very
Amazing.
important part. Yeah. And
Uh,
the nice thing about doing it like that is we talked about the predatory motor pattern in the beginning. We said that stalking, the indicate it's a stalking behavior. So I point at this deer, and then my handler will see it too. And this is a part of predation, so it feels good. It's not like we interrupt it completely. The dog has to come back all the way to us and leave everything behind that they want to have. They can stay in this situation. They can watch it, the wildlife, as long as they stand still. And even then, we have dopamine released, we have endorphins released, we have adrenaline release. We just have to make sure that this does not get too much and the dog gets carried away and runs off. So we always have to make sure we are at a distance, at a level that the dog can still cope and self-regulate.
do you know what? The more you're talking, the more I'm understanding, and a lot of it is um, about stillness, calmness. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I now remember seeing a webinar with you sat down and the dog was beside you, looking in the distance, and I can't remember what the dog was looking at. And you broke it down into stages from this is what it was to where we are now, and that was amazing to watch. Yeah. I don't think I could ever. I mean, we don't have many animals in the UK. We have a lot of deer in certain parts, and there's lots of farmland with sheep and farm animals where this behaviour goes about on a regular basis. Yeah. Um, and I don't think anyone has the common sense to just keep their dogs on a lead. Yeah. But I think we could most certainly do with a lot of trainers here in the UK learning this technique, dog training, so that we can get get it out there and prevent a lot of this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
in Germany, is it something that is used quite a lot now since the e-collar has gone? People come to you quite regularly.
Yeah, among positive trainers, yes, but of course, balanced trainers or aversive trainers, they have other means. Even though they cannot use e-collars officially, some do it not so officially, and others just use spray collars or a water bottle with spray water. So there will always be ways for people to, yeah, but for positive trainers, it's yeah, kind of standard now.
Interesting. So if I were a trainer in Germany, let's just say I sticks and left Essex, the cold side of Essex, come to Germany, and I wanted to go on a course, how would I go about
You would like to go on a course?
it? If I was living in Germany, or I suppose I don't have to be in Germany, and if I wanted to go on a course to learn about what you've just
Yeah,
told us to
yeah.
do, how would I go about it?
This is the problem. This is why I have translated all these protocols into English, because there is so if you type in Google Anti-Jagdtraining or Jagdersatztraining, a lot of workshops come up, a lot of different trainers come up. Some of them are really good, some of them I wouldn't go to their workshops, but never mind. It is quite common. But in the English-speaking world, it's not present. So this is why I thought, okay, I have to do something about this. And I took the components from very different trainers, and I developed something on my own, which I use as a trainer because it suits me best. And then I started to teach this and translate this. Yeah.
Okay, so if someone wants to get in contact with you regarding doing this course, yeah, how would they contact you?
Yeah, so I am on social media a lot on Facebook and Instagram. You can search for Predation Substitute Training, and then I should come up, I hope. And I have a website, of course, predationsubstitutetraining.com, and there I offer some courses. Yeah, so we have an instructor course that will start by the end of the year again for trainers and dog professionals. But I also have an owner course. This is very comprehensive, very in detail owner course, which is called Call of the Chase, and it's available from my website. But if you just want to dip your feet into this and start with it all, you can, maybe you don't want to make a big investment now. You can just simply buy one of my books. So my book about predation substitute training is called Hunting Together. And then I have written another book on recall, how to teach dogs a very strong recall that works even in the presence of wildlife. And now I have written another book on loose leash walking for high prey drive dogs, which is called Walking Together, because I have found that especially those hunting dogs, those original breeds, those breeds with a high prey drive that get aroused easily in the environment, they have so much trouble walking on a loose leash, and all the regular methods might not be that successful. So I've put together a training program for them too. But Hunting Together is the first book, and it covers the 4 components of predation substitute training.
So everyone that's listening to this, watching this, the books are amazing. I have the books, and I can guarantee you they are well worth buying and reading. There you get lots of information. You now have the contact details of how to contact Simone, which now brings me to say, Simone, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on and talking to you, yeah, and teaching us about. Let me see if I can get this right. Predation substitute. Yeah, substitute. Yeah,
Never mind. Yeah, it
because
both work.
until I'm going to let everyone know. I don't mind actually telling everyone how I've got this all wrong until Simone has just explained to us the differences between the two. He always thought it was always one. It's been very interesting, very informative, and I have learned a lot. I've just got to get my words out better. And I just want to say thank you. And at some point, I'm going to ask you to come back. Okay?
Of course.
So
Yeah, you're
Simone,
very welcome.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Colin. Thank you.